Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Out of Thinaer. This is our premiere season 3. We're so excited to have some special guests with us. Let me introduce them real quick. First, we have Allix Jackson from the AWS team. Allix is the Senior Account Manager in Public Sector at AWS. Welcome, Allix.
Thank you.
And then we also have Roman Chanclor. He's the Specialized Account Executive at Mendix. Glad you're here, Roman.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we are going to be talking a little bit about our joint Connected Everywhere solution, a really exciting partnership that we're coming together to offer to the industry. So before we get into that, maybe we could just hear a little bit more about your background. So let's start with you, Allix. Tell us a little bit more about your role at AWS and how did you get into what you do?
Sure. I have been at AWS coming up on 5 years now. And as you mentioned, I work within our public sector on our industry domain partner team. So specifically, our charter is to help drive AWS partner solutions that drive manufacturing optimization, transformation, and end-to-end visibility for our customers that are manufacturing for the defense industrial base, as well as aerospace and satellite. So that's where we're hyper-focused and where this Connected Everywhere solution is serving us very well.
And Roman, tell us a little bit more about Mendix and what you do there.
Sure. I've been with Siemens, for 5 years now, covering the Mendix product line inside of Siemens. It's part of our Siemens Accelerator portfolio. And my real focus is around the defense industrial base as well as the maritime industrial base, and really helping those organizations support our warfighters by rapid modernization inside of their application landscape, and now helping our customers into the new AI world and how we can actually start leveraging AI with solutions like Connected Everywhere inside of their shop floor to their top floor.
Well, so it sounds like you both have your hands full with your everyday work. So I guess kind of setting the scene for the industry, defense is usually a zero failure zone with rigorous oversight and compliance rules. I guess for both of you, from your perspective, what does it mean? What does this mean for digital transformation with such oversight?
What really opened my eyes for the Connected Everywhere solution is really working with these aerospace and defense leaders. And just like you said, Beverly, the manufacturers operate in a world where their shop floor is really a zero failure zone. Every minute of downtime or misplaced tool can cascade into multiple massive delays through days, through weeks, through months. This can introduce things like compliance risk or even have direct mission impacts. And all of that critical data that's inside of those machines, those tools, and all those assets are still trapped in a lot of those legacy systems and silos. And really to get into digital transformation, you can't go the traditional paths because they're too slow. They expose a lot of risk, and they're really expensive, especially whenever you're taking traditional waterfall approaches and not an agile-based approach. And so I noticed that those customers needed a way to unlock that data very quickly and turn it into actionable insight, as well as building those custom applications and workflows without a large coding team. Because if you haven't noticed, in the software industry, there's not enough software developers to develop all of these new applications that really are going to take these solutions to the next level. And so that viable first foundation of putting the Connected Everywhere solution, really at the lowest level possible inside of the shop floor, allows for us then to take that data and feed it into AI and agentic based applications with the scalability that AWS gives us to be able to really scale these platforms inside of our customers.
What about you, Allix? What do you think the industry gains in digital transformation as far as the public sector?
I think Roman's answer was wildly comprehensive. So +1 to most everything he said. The results that we've seen, though, where the critical improvements have happened, have been from very large defense industrial base customers that were taking months to be able to get an application developed, as far as, time to get the concept, validate it with the people on the shop floor, send it over to the software developers, get it back, refine it. That process was taking months. And what we found was by the end of that process, when the application was finally meeting the need of the operator, that need was no longer even relevant. The need has shifted. It has changed, right? 6 months have gone by. And so really the criticality here is within the fact that we've gone from months to minutes. And minutes is, actually the real truth in some of these, but months to days on the higher side of timeline, where the needs that we're meeting, they are time sensitive. They do have to be addressed immediately. And we've really been able to close that gap from the language of OT to IT and helping them communicate in the same language with visual-based design applications where the operator can go, hey, no. This is step one. This is step two, right? And the software developer engineer is like, oh, got it. Okay. And so we're really helping them merge languages to get instant results. Same thing with the Thinaer side as far as real-time visibility. Many times we've seen that the big gap is that we run a report, an asset report, or even a factory floor operation report, and we're getting end-of-day results that we're reviewing the next day. The challenge is being made aware of a problem that was a problem yesterday is not helpful today in almost any scenario. And if it is helpful, it would have been more helpful to know yesterday, because we've got, like Roman said, compliance issues. You get fines when you have delays. You've got workforce members that aren't being fully utilized because they're there and the machine is down and they can't perform his or her duties. So the time sensitivity and the ability to deliver near-time immediate results through this connected everywhere solution, I think has been wildly transformative to all of our customers that we're serving with it.
Yeah, that's really amazing just to hear. A true digital transformation with just implementing those changes. So let's dive into the actual solution. So the Connected Everywhere solution is built on 3 pillars. So there's connect, build, and scale. So the connect part is the Thinaer part, and I can speak to that a little bit. Basically, Thinaer handles the data generation. So we deploy sensors on anything from machinery to even environmental monitoring and collect data. And so that serves as the foundational data layer. And so that is then passed on to the build component. So we do the data, and then there's the build component. So maybe, Roman, you can talk about how exactly does the Siemens Mendix solution, what does it do with that data?
Since Thinaer is taking care of the connect side, once we get into the build side, Menda takes that secure data stream from the Thinaer Connect solution and makes it incredibly easy to create fast mission grades, mission specific applications. And we do this by our ability to be able to deliver a visual based full stack development environment. Some refer that to low code. I don't really like leveraging that term a lot just because it's become really overused, sort of like big data was back in the early 2000s. But it really allows us to be able to modularize, componentize, and start to reuse features within inside of the application. So the first application that we build, maybe it's a collaboration between IT and OT, or maybe that we're trying to do fraud prevention checklist, with integrated data location in that application. A lot of these connectors can be pre-built inside of the Mendix platform, automatically connecting out of the box to the Thinaer open APIs. So it's a drag and drop build capability. And we're seeing that even engineers on the shop floor now, they're being able to actually work with IT and put together prototypes in days, not weeks and months, to actually say, hey, let's fail fast here. Let's prove that this can be valuable. Let's not do a boil the ocean type of approach. Let's start small. Let's deliver incremental value. And then let's use AWS to scale that value.
Scale is very important. Allix, these are really large enterprises across, sometimes multiple locations. So they need really robust, scalable solutions. How does AWS come into play to take them to that next level?
Yeah, I think that's exactly where AWS does the scale. Just like Roman said, right? We typically try something in a pilot. We want to rapidly experiment, fail fast, or demonstrate success very quickly. But then we need to move from pilot to production without architectural constraints. And that's where AWS is going to come in. So whether we're processing real-time sensor data or we're training complex ML models, AWS can automatically scale your compute, your storage, your networking resources to match your needs, as well as all of your compliance needs, which in a lot of these environments and partners that we are partnering with is critical. And you're only paying for what you need. So tremendous value there to get all of the capability that you need when you need it. But when you don't, you're not paying for those capabilities to exist and not be utilized.
And I'll add on top of that too. So we've got a joint customer right now that we're all working with, and AWS also brings the availability for us to do hybrid-based deployments. Everything from putting an outpost out on a shipyard to actually having secure classified clouds from the lowest level of impact level all the way up to the highest secret level. And that flexibility really allows our customers to be able to scale the way their use case and their mission sees fit.
I guess, can you talk about specifics? Maybe this is for either of you, in terms of like go find times, calibrated tools, downtime. How does the solution actually fix these pain points?
Yeah, in practice, I mean, we've seen A&D teams go from concept to production apps in weeks instead of quarters, using far fewer developers. We've actually seen, up to 10 times faster delivery of applications with 70% fewer resources to be able to do that by democratizing that application development lifecycle and actually being able to reuse a lot of those components with inside of there, such as our Thinaer connector. This frees up a lot of the talent that would normally be on a full stack software development program and allows them to go focus on higher value innovation rather than maintenance coding, which is currently going on with inside of the industry. So this really allows us to be able to really put the jet fuel into the application development lifecycle, leveraging that connect capability and then scale capability with AWS. And so whenever you look at 10 times faster, 70% fewer resources, you can start to calculate millions, tens of millions of dollars in saved investment, not to mention the amount of efficiency gains that you're gaining from the shop floor all the way out to the mission technology that you're deploying.
And I would just add to that some of the statistics that we've seen around even just asset tracking and where Thinaer's IoT sensors and multiple form factors come in there, they're finding that a lot of floor operators are spending 5 to 10% of their workday hunting for tools, just looking for key essential things that they need to do their job. So instant reduction in that activity by leveraging those IoT sensors and visualizing it from a single dashboard. Another huge area of opportunity where we're experiencing gains is with equipment downtime. So having constant monitoring of the machine conditions, everything from temperature, vibration, operational status, and taking all of those data points, ingesting them into Mendix, where we have applications built out to do automatic alerts if we hit certain parameters that we know are going to cause failures, is allowing us to proactively address maintenance on those machines before the failure occurs. So line downtime, proactive procurement of certain parts so that we're not finding ourselves waiting for that part to come in once it's broken, are really allowing for delivery timelines as a whole to speed up as a result.
Allix, this one's for you. From the perspective of working in the public sector, how much confidence should a defense contractor have in AWS, particularly when needs such as GovCloud and other security needs are there for A&D facilities?
I think what Roman alluded to earlier is a great support statement to the fact that I believe our defense customers, our defense industrial base, our maritime industrial base, we have a very long track record of demonstrating success of securing their data, ensuring that we're meeting all compliance regulations that they might have, and the ability to not have those be applicable to every single program. So the ability to go up or down within security compliance measures is critical. GovCloud regions are physically isolated. They have access to exclusively U.S. citizens on U.S. soil. So that ensures that all of your data does stay in the U.S. and is never replicated outside of that region. If you are in the world of defense, you know that that's really important for some of the contracts. And so our ability to do that with really the highest uptime in industry right now shows that it can be both secure and reliable, as well as scalable. And back to the fact that as you do scale up or down to your needs, you're only going to pay for what you're using when you're using it, which has become really cost efficient for a lot of our customers who win a program without a lot of line of sight to that. Great problem to have, but how are we going to support this and scale it out? We're going to just turn on more environments within AWS. Let's say that we perform on the program, we even get a little bit ahead of schedule, and we don't need quite as much for the next month. As you do demand planning, it allows that to be very agile and flexible. And if you get a surprise one way or the other, you're not going to have a financial consequence to that surprise as you need to meet the need.
That's really good, really important. Roman, let's talk a little bit about some real world examples. Can you think of a manufacturer that has a success story that you could share where they might have saved some money or recovered costs from, having to replace missing parts or tools or raw materials, or just any kind of success stories with implementing your solution?
So, the results are really impressive. We've seen anywhere from $30 million ROI to where you're recovering $5 million in recovery per year to 20-30% factory performance gains. And the key here is that we don't boil the ocean. We start with the visibility as the foundation and deliver quick compounding wins. So if you think of that in sort of a basic three-tiered approach, first, Thinaer deploys the sensors rapidly, often in days, to close the 70% visibility gap. This allows us to gain those insights, but more importantly, the process flows. There's no massive rip and replace with Thinaer, but it also delivers that clean data. And we need that clean data to be able to run those analytics and those AI models. Then the Mendix team comes in to build those high impact apps fast, or teaching the customer how to build those high impact fast. The downtime dashboard that reduces unplanned equipment stops. We've done a capacity planning tool that optimizes scheduling, or maintenance workflows that predict issues before they escalate. And because we're getting that data really clean, and from day one out of the Thinaer Connect solution, this allows us to quickly get 20-30% performance gains and improvements through better maintenance and planning. And whenever you add all of this together, reduce downtime, eliminating waste like those through reordering of tools that maybe you misplaced. And with Thinaer, we can do geofencing around a certain area so a tool never leaves that area. We've seen cumulative ROI exceed that $30 million or larger with some of our large enterprise deployments. And we've got a lot that are coming down the pipeline right now that we're going to be working with Thinaer. And we're super excited about the amount of efficiency gains and the time savings and the ROI that we're going to be able to deliver to these customers.
I just wanted to add one thing that comes up a lot as we do start talking about, Roman mentioned the 70% visibility gap, which like to normalize. If you're going, hey, I don't have single pane visibility to most of my operations. I cannot see from bird's eye view, and especially if I'm not on site, the activity on approximately 70% of my machines, right? And that's because we know some of these CNC machines, some of these really expensive machines we buy last many decades if we're doing well. Technology is improving so quickly that a lot of the machines that we have that functionally do their job don't have the ability to, Bluetooth connect or connect to a network for us to see without walking up to the machine and seeing the light on that we've got a problem. So that is one of the capabilities that Thinaer sensors can do, is to help us retrofit our factory floor without ripping and replacing. They've got sensors, they've got adapters, they've got all sorts of form factors. And this has been really, really important to the customers that Roman and I are working with. The fact that we're not asking to replace machines. If they still work, we need to keep them. That's a good steward of finances. But we can adapt, we can attach these sensors to help us get those capabilities that the newer machines are doing now. And the other thing that's important that comes up a lot is our customers will say, well, we already have some RFID sensors. We already have some geofencing. You mentioned that, Roman, and we know that's so important for program compliance. But with Thinaer, you can use your existing sensors. You can use your existing hardware, ingest data from those sensors and pieces of hardware as well. And Thinaer is just helping connect the gaps. So as we look at that 70% that is unaddressed, if you've got 30 or 40% that you feel great about, we can keep it. We can ingest that into the same Mendix dashboards that we are ingesting all the net new data and really create you a comprehensive picture. So I think that's just important as we're looking at cost of starting, as we're looking at timeline, as we're just wanting to be good stewards of, your entire financial operation. This is only adding net new capabilities quickly while helping you really get more out of your existing capabilities.
Yeah, and being that Mendix is a rapid application delivery platform, not only can we integrate with Thinaer, but then let's say Thinaer notices, hey, through a predictive maintenance stream, we notice that this CNC machine is going potentially to go down next week. Well, since I can also connect to my ERP system inside of Mendix, my PLM system inside of Mendix, my work order management system inside of Mendix, as soon as I get that alert, I don't have to swivel chair over. I can be in that same Mendix application looking at that Thinaer data and go ahead and say, hey, do I have any of this spare part in the warehouse? Oh, I do. All right, send technician out to get this and to go preamble or proactively fix that machine before it breaks and I have downtime on the shop floor. Or if I don't have that part in the warehouse, alert my supply chain through my ERP that, hey, we need to order more of these because we're expecting downtime next week with this machine. So it really moves you from that reactive world to a proactive world. And you really need that clean data from the ground level up that Thinaer provides for us to be able to make those strategic business decisions more at the top of the floor.
I do think it's interesting for a lot of our folks who are going through digital transformation, especially for our bigger customers. We have found that a lot of them, through a series of acquisitions over the years or decades, find that they have multiple core systems. Roman mentioned your MES, your PLMs, your ERPs, and there's typically an effort or some kind of North Star to say we're going to consolidate and move towards one common platform. And that's a big lift, right? But we are trying to swim in that direction. This solution has allowed our customers to do both. Keep working towards moving all of your data to a central place. That's a great goal, but there's a lot of politics and logistics and all the above that go into. Typically, that's a few years for a transformative effort. Because of Mendix's ability to integrate with so many different core systems, we've been able to let customers leverage the data that they have wherever it is. Hybrid approach. If you've got some on-prem, you've got some in multiple clouds, that's okay. We can get started now. We can tie in each of those systems only to the data that we need for the insights that we're generating from these applications. Your other teams can continue to work on that transformative effort, but this can happen in parallel. And that has been wildly de-risking and wildly transformative to not say, well, once we get there, then we can get started improving our manufacturing operations. Because the time, right, the way that it's working with procurement and competition in the space, we don't have 2 or 3 years before we're going to start getting better. That has to happen now. So this has wildly de-risked that with the ability to do both in a parallel path.
Yeah, and I think that whole phased approach, Alex, I mean, that's really how you and I have seen, all the wins that we've had with inside of this industry is we're not doing a big bang approach. We're saying, hey, let us prove the value. Like, you don't believe us. Let us prove it to you. And then that really opens up the eyes of the customer saying, well, oh, we can actually do this. Because a lot of the times the customer just think it's too hard. Well, we've got a 10-year outdated system. We're never going to be able to get off of it. Yeah, I know that's the old days, but now we can. We can use technologies like Mendix and AWS tools that they have with inside of GovCloud to help that customer and also educate that customer on capabilities that others are doing in their industry and let them know that they're not alone. And this isn't our first time that we've done this. We've helped other customers in their enterprise, in their industry, and the value is real.
So there's this kind of tension in the defense industry and public sector between having these legacy systems, but then also wanting to modernize and keep up and incorporate machine learning or AI and those components. How do you see the industry moving forward with AI adoption, machine learning adoption, this solution, and just what are you hearing and what are you seeing and what are you thinking the future holds?
I think the future is really bright, but we're moving so fast. I would be scared to predict where we are even tomorrow with how fast technology is going right now. But it really doesn't change the strategies of the defense industrial base and the Defense Department or Department of War, because they have to take a very different approach to their modernization and their AI journey. The data that they look at is very sensitive data. Some of it is classified data. So there's a longer pull in the tent to get into those environments through InfoSec policies and security frameworks. But we're seeing those boundaries being broke down by senior leaders within inside of these organizations that really just want to gain the availability to see some of those insights and see some of those advancements. And again, taking a starting small approach, they're setting up small little pilots, small little areas that we can actually take a look at. How can we use AI, maybe not initially on the shop floor, but how can we use AI, in finance so we can understand how it's going to work in our world and then prepare for those really tough use cases that we're going to start seeing within inside of more of the industrial based footprint, like on the shop floor. And with thin air, the types of data, whenever you look at AI, it's about the data, right? The data has to be clean enough. It's got to be understandable enough. And there's got to be context and intelligence in that data for us to be able to produce and give to those AI and machine learning models for them to be able to predict and give us the correct answers once the data runs through those models. And so if we start with the connect, making sure that data is clean, as soon as we get done with our pilots over in finance, now the organization feels comfortable about the data that's going to be coming into their AI models. And again, back to de-risking. It's all about de-risking it and letting them know that we're lowering the amount of risk to make it available for you to transform your organization. Being able to integrate those AI and machine learning models for that predictive insights that we've been talking about, and then roll it out across all the facilities while using AWS to help us scale that.
Do you have any advice for anyone who might be listening in the audience who hears what we're saying, likes it, but is kind of feeling overwhelmed with how to bring a solution like this, into their organization? Who do they talk to first? And just kind of like, how do they broach this conversation, especially in really large departments where there's needs for different stakeholders? What would you suggest would be a first step in kind of shopping this idea around?
Number one, I would suggest just reach out to one of us, right? Either Thin Air, either at Mendix or at AWS. Learn who you're going to be working with. We're professionals in this space. We have a lot of subject matter expertise with inside of the industry verticals, but you need to start somewhere. And there's a 3-step process, at least in the connected everywhere solution space, that, we're seeing customers adopt. First, start with connect. Thin Air deploys that hardware agnostic sensors to unlock all the trapped data within inside of the machines, the tools, the assets, creating that unified AI-driven data layer that we talked about. Then you start to build that initial value, right? Using Mendix, we quickly develop, 1 to 2 high ROI applications, maybe a tool tracking application, maybe a dashboard, a basic maintenance alert system that allows you to leverage that new data stream. These deliver quick wins and they prove the concept. And then it prepares us for that scale and expand, right? As the third step. And working with AWS has great methodologies, great models that they allow us to be able to work backwards from the end state to which we want to be sort of like our North Star, and how are we going to get there? And so using the AWS GovCloud for compliance, any classified needs, any additional workflows, or their wonderful Gen AI models like through Bedrock, this allows us then to really complete that solution, giving the customer those predictive insights, and allows us then to really scale it across all of those facilities. Alex, love to get your take on that, though.
Yeah, plus one to what you said, really in tandem, that is the goal, right? Is that we can prove this out and de-risk it for you. So essentially using our working backwards methodology, we're going to sit down with you and look at kind of what's the big picture. What are the big challenges that we want to go after? Great, North Star. Let's pick one, to Roman's point, that we go, hey, we can show you tangible, measurable outcomes on this in 6 to 8 weeks. Let's use that problem statement. Do we have agreement that if we can show you here, it would make sense then to go address these other use cases? So once we have consensus on that, which is typically a very quick process with some of the business stakeholders, then we get started. And we are seeing measurable results in 6 to 8 weeks, where we're able to show you with your data in a Mendix templated application, here are the real insights. And it's not just a demo. It's not just, well, this is what it would look like, but imagine your data here. It is your data. And that has been so confidence building for our customers who want to be good stewards of money, to go, not only have we seen their capabilities demoed in a perfect world, we are seeing our data and our insights. And even if we stopped right here, we've learned something that we should adjust in our operations that is going to enhance our outcomes. Usually once you've done that, you would like to get more of that. And it's a very natural conversation from there. But even just from the pilot, I would expect measurable insights that you can then make actionable and go experience gains accordingly.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like a pilot or proof of concept would be a good first step. Yeah, and we're definitely able to help with that. So last question, any parting words, any final thoughts that you would like to leave our audience with, or anything that you'd like to add?
I think it just reiterates what we've said earlier in the conversation. So many times we know these transformations are needed. We know change is needed, but it feels daunting because we go, well, they just wouldn't understand us, right? We've got, our environment is too far left, or it's too complex, or we've got too many systems that we need to do these things first to stabilize before we could ever do something transformative. And that just is not the truth anymore. And I would encourage you to, at minimum, reach out to us and let's talk about it. We can give you real references of customers in the industry who have learned this and are excited to realize that you can run parallel paths. You can do a massive transformation and experience milestone gains along the way very quickly that lead to huge gains while you're still chasing the North Star, while enterprise IT is doing these really big goals, which are wonderful as well. But we can, in weeks, help you experience gains that are worth hundreds, thousands, in some cases, millions. So it's not too good to be true. We would love to talk to you about really within your environment what that looks like. But with the way that technology is and the abilities of Thinaer, Mendix, and AWS, it can be a very light lift for your teams to experience a very big gain.
I would agree with all that. And one thing that I always tell, potential new customers or even current customers that we have, you're not alone, right? We want to partner. You need to find good partnerships with inside of the industry to be able to leverage industry best practices with technology. Understanding that if I'm working with an aerospace manufacturer or a ship manufacturer, or maybe I'm working directly with the DoD, their number one job is not to be an IT provider. Their number one job is to build aircraft or to build ships or submarines, or they don't want to grow up to be an IT person, right? That's what we do. And so you need to find those good partners like AWS, like Thinaer, like Siemens. I mean, we walk in from a Siemens perspective with our Mendix product line with a lot of subject matter expertise inside of industrial environments, being that we're one of the largest industrial organizations on the planet. So we're also coming with a lot of our own experiences and our own lessons learned, not to mention that we deal with all of your other partners with inside of the defense industrial base, jointly with AWS and Thinaer. So we have a lot to help you with. So if I could just say one thing, you're not alone in this journey. We're all in it together. In this industry, we're all supporting one mission, the warfighter, and we're here to help.
Well, with that, we have landed the aircraft at the end of our conversation. Thank you so much to Roman and Allix for joining us with such really amazing and insightful knowledge about the industry and this solution. So if you're listening and you're interested in the Connected Everywhere solution, there'll be details in the description and show notes on how you can get in touch with us and learn more, but even just implement the solution. So thank you so much for joining us. My name is Beverly, host of Out of Thinaer, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Beverly. See ya.